Today I'm going to let somebody else do my talking. This is a 1981 film of a Soviet defector talking about the 4 stages that are necessary for a communist takeover of the United States.
The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students. Not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom.
There is nothing wrong with your screen. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling the messaging in this transmission. We will tell you the topics you may speak about. We will remove any speech we deem unfit. We will identify and protect you from all that is evil. You need only put your full trust in us. We are the government, and we are here to help.
Hey folks, welcome to episode 13. George is back in the house. Hello there, Georgie.
Hey, Jack. Good to be back. Ready to go. Well rested. Psyched up for episode 13. We got some vaccine talk today. Some other COVID topics to go over. Antifa is back in action, and we've got coverage on that for their little spa incident. And then, Jack, what do you got going on?
So I got a few stories and disgraceful treatment of our flag. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, and man, I can't wait to get to that. All right, you ready to go, Jack?
Let's get tanked.
All right, Jack. So when it comes to this vaccine, right, we got a lot of people, pretty much half the country says no, half the country, is already vaccinated. I feel like everyone who's going to get vaccinated at this point is vaccinated. The numbers are about 158 million are vaccinated, which is almost exactly half the country. So, and there are a lot of people, I think, that have gotten vaccinated that probably weren't overly comfortable with the idea, but, whether it be for work or for whatever else, they went ahead and did it, and maybe work doesn't require it, but which is another myth, all these people saying work is requiring it. They're really not. They don't want that liability. And we're going to get into why in a minute, because the drug is experimental, and well, all of them are experimental. And there was a very interesting video, Jack, and I know I showed it to you earlier, regarding Dr. Robert Malone, who actually invented the mRNA technology for vaccines, which was used by Pfizer and by Moderna in the processing of these vaccines. And, you see a lot of stuff, Jack, about, the deaths and, obviously the right wing is saying, all these people are dying. This is, worse than the disease, worse than the virus. And then the left is saying nothing to see here. Everything is safe, right? And everybody's just, as with every topic today, confirming their own suspicions with their own information. And a lot of this is the government's fault. But I mean, I do lay this on the doorstep of the government. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know what the reason for it is. We talked earlier about, I don't really get why this is such a big deal for the government to get done. That is a little bit creepy that it's that big a deal, because it does kind of make you think that something, whenever you ask the question why and you don't have a good answer, it tends to leave you with that creepy feeling, because now you're left to guess. And that's not a comfortable thing to be doing when it comes to things like vaccines. But Dr. Robert Malone kind of got into it a little bit. He had a sit-down interview. I found it pretty fascinating. He's not groundbreaking in what he discusses, but he does get into the realities that there are symptoms out there that are, affecting people. And, what they're finding, it may not be considering how many people have had the vaccine, it may not be as alarming, as it could be in the long term, which is really what it comes down to, right? It's the long term. No?
Right. Yeah, because we really have no idea. And, I don't know if the piece, I know you're going to show a piece in a little bit, but will that cover the term masking? And if not, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so what he talks about, and I don't have that particular clip, or I have it, but we're going to pass it because it's kind of long, and I can get the point across just as quickly. Masking is basically what he mentions is that it's very difficult for them to figure out whether or not things are actually tied to the vaccine. And when you hear all those, vaccine-related deaths numbers and things of that nature, keep in mind they're coming from VAERS, which is a reporting system that is used where, let's say my mom gets the vaccine and she starts to show symptoms right after getting it. I would go on VAERS personally and update VAERS with what her symptoms are. If she were to pass away, I would put, 2 days later, I would put in she got the vaccine 2 days ago, passed away 2 days later. Where it gets hairy is those numbers don't, just like any other correlation, they don't imply causation. So most of these people that are passing away, as with the virus, are very old. Mid-80s, they already have a litany of conditions. There's no, I'm sure if they took each and every individual one and studied them individually, they could get that information. But, it's that process, disturbingly enough, is not set up to validate these deaths. And, he kind of gets into it a little bit with his interview as well. But he does point out that a lot of what doctors are finding and researchers are finding is that there's a lot of overlap between the long-term effects and symptoms of people who have had COVID and the vaccine. So what that means is, if you have COVID, and you may have heard that people who have COVID, some of them, not all of them, but some of them may have lingering conditions after they recover from COVID. Maybe it's that, they get winded a little bit faster, or they've been changed in some way. Usually not a life-threatening way, but in some way. And this has not happened to everybody. It doesn't even happen anywhere near, a majority, not even less than half. But there are people who get it. And what he's saying is they're finding now similarities between those symptoms and the symptoms that people are getting from COVID. From the COVID vaccine. So what this really all boils down to is, if anyone tells you that the vaccine is safe, they're lying to you. And I don't mean that in a way to say, they could be telling the truth, I guess is the best way to put it. But the reason I say they're lying to you is because there's no way on earth.
There's no evidence.
Yeah, there's no way on earth they could know. That's what it comes down to.
Right.
So it's perfectly rational for someone to say, I'm not taking this experimental drug. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm one of those people. I don't take it. I'm not going to take it. But I understand, my mother took it. My brother was angry that she did, but I wish she hadn't, because she already had COVID. So it wasn't something, and that's another thing. Like if you've had it and you have the antibodies, they have no idea how that reaction goes down with adding in this vaccine when you already have the antibodies. Your antibodies are stronger than the vaccine. Like that's just a fact. The antibodies, those who have the antibodies should not be taking vaccines, which again brings us to why are they just throwing this blanket statement that everybody should get a vaccine? Because it's just not true. Right. And this is where the messaging comes in. Right. And those who are saying, who are trying to make a legitimate case to say, look, I don't want to take this, and they're absolutely well within their rights to do so. I don't care what the emergency powers are. I know there are some legal minds, I believe Alan Dershowitz was one, that are saying, well, the government can force you to take a vaccine in a state of emergency. They cannot make that case over a virus like COVID. They just can't. If this was something that was killing all age groups, was killing everybody, that the mortality rate was like really high, the government can sort of, they can try and press the issue on that, but it's not. So they can't.
Well, the other part of it is if it were, they wouldn't need to press the issue. Let's face it. If you and I are standing there talking at the deli and you drop dead right in front of me, I'll give you a quick blessing and then boom, I'm going off to get a shot. Right.
Yeah, to the clinic. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, that's the way people, right? People know that, right? So people are smart enough to figure out, whether or not something is really dangerous or it's not.
Right.
And this constant sell job. So, what gets me in some of the things that Robert Malone was saying, and this I'm going to get to in a clip, was the effect of, telling people, basically treating them like they're crazy people if they don't want to get the vaccine, or if they got the vaccine and they feel like they're having symptoms, that they're everywhere up the chain, all the way up to the president, is basically making the argument that they must not be because the vaccine is safe. And your story gets sheltered, and Facebook shuts you down, and Twitter shuts you down if you go out and try and portray this information that is really happening to you, right? It's like really and they're all shutting you down, and now no one gets to share this information. This information just gets squashed, and it's vital information. I'm going to go ahead and run this clip.
Oh, all right. There's certain types of information that you're just not allowed to go there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I've never experienced this before. It's reinforced by the social media platforms. If you are somebody who has experienced symptoms after receiving vaccine, I'm saying that carefully. I'm not saying those are related. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not judging that. But imagine the mother who's had a cascade of symptoms. She's now debilitated. Perhaps she's worried about her ability to conceive now because she's had menstrual alterations and things like that. And she's surrounded by friends, family, social contacts that all believe that the vaccines are fully safe, and she must be crazy. It can't possibly be that there's any relationship between vaccine acceptance, uptake, and her symptoms. So let's say this person goes on Facebook and joins the Facebook group that's been created for people that believe they've had symptoms that have been triggered by vaccines. So there's a group there. They build up to about 100, 150,000 people. Facebook deletes them. Now, the practical implication is for this cohort of people that believe that they've had a vaccine, post-vaccination syndrome, whether or not they did, they're getting all kinds of social messaging from the top of the government on down that these are perfectly safe vaccines. They couldn't have had the symptoms that they're experiencing. They're getting that from all the people around them. They're not even able to communicate on social media with others, and they're all isolated, of course, to discuss what their symptoms are as opposed to somebody else's symptoms. It is the ultimate gaslighting. And for these people, it is profoundly depressing. Can you appreciate what I'm saying? I feel this is fundamentally wrong.
I mean, when you look at it the way he's positioning it, it really, I mean, this collusion, and we had we did that rant with Dr. Shiva and the lawsuit he has now with Twitter and this collusion they have with the government. And it seems to, it just this messaging, right? This messaging and, trying to connect these dots, right? As to why they would do that. Why would you shut down, you've got 150,000 people who are having, maybe they're not all 150,000 are having symptoms, but all 150,000 likely know someone who is.
Right.
Why else would you be in that? I mean, I'm sure there's some people in who probably like us who just want to see, what the posts are like and what these people are going through, just so they can kind of get a feel for what's going on out in the world. But why would you shut that down? That's invaluable information. These people are able to share this information with each other. If you're having heart palpitations, let's say, or some of the symptoms where your heart was swelling and stuff, like if you find another 2,000 people who are having, I don't care that they gave 158 million doses and there's 150,000 that are having these symptoms. That's 150,000 people that are having symptoms that might be able to get treated if we could acknowledge where they came from, or maybe avoid it in the first place.
I was going to say, the thing is that, they're more concerned about any type of negative information coming back that might cause people to hold back from getting the vaccine than they are with the fact that perhaps there is something to this, right? And we don't know, but we won't know if we're shutting everybody's voices down and the information that's being collected is being collected by the same folks that are, in essence, shutting the message down. Because, we both know it's not Facebook that's doing it. It's the government working with Facebook to shut it down.
Anyway, he gets into, it's not the only problem with it, though. The last problem, and he touches on this as well, is the ethics involved.
An emergency use authorization product, which is what all these vaccines are, and many of the drugs, is an experimental product. It's not yet licensed. So that's point number one. They're all experimental products. Point number two, if you're going to be administering experimental products to patients, that falls under clinical research, medical research. And so you have to follow the guidance for medical research. And I mentioned the common rule is codified in the Code of Federal Regulations. The first clause importantly in the common rule is there has to be complete disclosure of risk. Now, intuitively what that means, because when you buy a bottle of aspirin, you pull out this little piece of paper and you look at that and you go, holy moly, this aspirin's going to kill me. If you read all the way through, it can cause heart attacks or gastric erosions or whatever. And you look at that and you say, I don't know if I want to take that aspirin. But the truth is that the ones that are common are up at the top. And we all take aspirin or Tylenol or some version of that. That's the level of disclosure of adverse event risk that must be provided to patients participating in clinical research. That level of information, as we've just been discussing, is censored. It's not available. Okay, so we are not meeting the criteria for full disclosure of risk. Second key principle is that full disclosure has to be comprehensible and comprehended. Earlier on, I referred to thrombocytopenia, and you were like, what the heck was that? Okay, and I said low platelets. That's a great example. The first one was scientific jargon that was incomprehensible to you. The second one you could understand. So these risks have to be conveyed using language that people can comprehend. Third key principle. You cannot coerce, you cannot entice. The patient or the subject has to freely accept the experimental medicine of their own volition. All this messaging about you must take the vaccine because otherwise Aunt May could get infected. All of this messaging that the vaccine is safe, etc., all the peer pressure that's happening around the vaccine, that's coercion. Now, it gets even more florid with those nations. I don't think we've done it here in the States, but Canada has. We're going to give out ice cream cones to get the kiddies to come and take the jab. That's being done. Okay, that's coercion.
Interesting. Yeah. So
it doesn't think it's being done in the States, but with because it's not. We're giving away Krispy Kremes and and
lottery money, $100 in Virginia, all kinds of incentives. So
it's disturbing on every level. And he just says it matter-of-factly.
Right.
But the reality is it's an experimental drug. Like, it's important for everyone to continually hit home with the fact that it's experimental, which is why I say no one can tell you that this is safe.
Right.
Because they just don't know.
They can't tell you it's not safe, and they can't tell you that it is safe.
They can't tell you anything.
Yeah, and so it's just a lack of honesty, and that is very concerning because there's a lack of transparency. And anytime you have a lack of transparency, regardless of your underlying intention, if you're not transparent, then what are you doing then? Why are you hiding it? And that's where everybody that is questioning this is starting to go. They're looking into and reading and trying to discover what the underlying motivation is.
Yeah, and Dr. Malone mentioned that, the information on, people that are showing these symptoms and people that are having these issues, it's all censored.
Right.
So if it's sent, like, why? Why would that information be, like, why would he, who's like the leading individual when it comes to dealing with this vaccine, for Christ's sakes, he invented the technology that they're using to administer it. Why on earth would people like himself and other epidemiologists not be able to see the information, but only have VAERS to go to, which, VAERS, folks, you can look it up. It's a self-reporting system. And he mentions in the show, in that interview, that, when self-reporters, they make up about 1% of the people who are actually affected by something. With all the unknowns out there, why on earth? And these are the questions, right? So unfortunately, we like to come at things and provide solutions and answers. But with this vaccine, there are none. Because nobody knows. And everything is so cryptic. And everyone, oh my God, if you Google I tried to look up vaccine deaths, and all Google gives me are a slew of fact check articles saying, oh, no, there haven't been that many deaths. No, they have. And what they're all saying is that the VAERS, which is where most of these stories are coming from about vaccine deaths, is that you can't make that link. All you know is that the person took it and shortly later died. You can't definitively say that they died because of the vaccine. Yeah, even though it's likely, but you can't say that for sure.
Right. All right, George. So I think we've covered enough on that one for right now. We could go on, but we shouldn't.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm sure there are other things you got on your mind, other things that are bothering you, I would imagine, huh?
There are. And I'm about to choke some people who are still saying Antifa doesn't exist. Well, I'm ready to go, Jack. I'm ready to go. There's another one, Jack. Another one. They're back again, these freaking jerky Smurfs. Let's go.
Wii Spa. So it's okay. I just want to be clear with you. It's okay. It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, Wii Spa, condone that. Is that what you're saying?
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I don't want you to write. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Is the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rule?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
So you may have seen the intro to this rant and thought to yourself, oh, this is a report on the Wii Spa situation. Now, if you haven't seen or heard about the Wii Spa situation, which is pretty much across the country right now, I'll play a clip from that video, but it's basically a situation with a spa, and everyone should know Wii Spa. The people of Los Angeles should be avoiding that place like the plague. If you have children, you're disgusting if you show up at that place. But they apparently allow men who say that they're women to drop their drawers in the women's locker room in front of little girls and children. And of course, other women as well. The little girls is the most disturbing part of it. It's disturbing anyway. And they allow it to happen. Now, despite the disgusting nature of all that, you can pull up that video on YouTube on your own. I'll show you a small clip. You want to see the whole thing, have at it. What we're talking about today is the reaction that came after. Because I don't know how many weeks now Jack and I have been trying to get this point across about Antifa and what they're about, what their organization does, and how they are specifically designed to undermine the United States of America. It is not a conspiracy theory. They're using the same name, the same flag, the same symbolism, and the same exact tactics as were used in pre-Nazi Germany. And what that group was designed to do was to create chaos so that there was something that Hitler could save them from. And that's what rose him to power. But we still have enough imbeciles in this country that while these people walk around literally with a sign saying, I am Antifa, we still can't even acknowledge that they exist. Oh, they're just a loosely organized group of people. There is no formal Antifa. There is no organization. Who do they pay dues to? Who is their leader? Who is the one running the show? Yet they hold meetings. They wear uniforms. They have flags. They show up completely organized. I don't want to hear another word out of another imbecile's mouth telling me that this group is not organized. I don't give a damn what you read in the media or in some article. If you read that this group doesn't exist or there's some loosely tied group that isn't organized, whatever it is that you're reading, at the moment you see that, you need to never read that again. And when I say never, I mean never, because they're not just lying to you, they're actively trying to set the stage to hurt you. Now, I'm going to play a quick clip from the Wii Spa so you have an understanding and some context for the rest of it that we're going to show about what happened and how Antifa showed up once again in uniform at their protests and started beating on people in the streets with the police standing by and watching it happen. Let's roll a tape.
Wii Spa, so it's okay. I just want to be clear with you. It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, Wii Spa, condone that. Is that what you're saying? Like I asked. It's so he could stay there. He could stay there. What sexual orientation? I see a dick. It lets me know he's a man. He's a man. He is a man. He is not no female. He is not a female. He is not a female. Hold on. He is not a female, sweetie. Okay, girls down there, other women who are highly offended for what they just saw. And you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, you sided with him. So Wii Spa is in agreement with men that just say they are a woman and they can go down there with their penis and get into the women's section.
Wii Spa is a big enough story by itself. Normally, in a normal society where people aren't condoning balls hanging in the face of children. But we've long since passed normal society. And LA is just a poster child for it. This spa should never be visited. This spa should only be visited by psycho trans people who want to show their genitals to children. That's what they deserve. And these are all young kids. Keep in mind, all these kids at the counters, all these people, all the Antifa people, all these people are young kids because these are the only people dumb enough to buy into this shit. And they've bought in hook, line, and sinker. So they take to the streets, these people, to protest the fact that it seems to be perfectly okay for men to expose themselves in front of children as long as they give the disclaimer and say, I'm a woman. And what happens? Oh, our friendly neighborhood Antifa come back on the scene.
You're gonna get hit. Oh man, see, they're gonna beat. Yo! No, you guys. Okay, just let him go. Just let him go. Just let him go. Let him go. Just come on. Get up and go. Get up and go. Yeah, I am. So get up and go. I am. Hey, get up and go. Get up and go.
Get the fuck out!
Get out of here, buddy. You don't belong here. Get out of here.
Yellow! Stick together! Yellow! These are 12 trans people, okay? What the fuck you gonna do?
Are you pushing women, you fucking drone?
Touch me!
Come on! Come on, motherfucker! Don't touch me! Yo, don't touch him, bro. Leave him. Man, fuck you for protecting this piece of shit! Hey, what's up? Hey! Jesus Christ! You keep walking. I'm just recording. Keep walking. Don't record. Go. Get the fuck out. You don't need that sign. That sign doesn't do anything for anyone. You're just hating on people for no fucking reason.
Really? Are you being violent here? Lady, it's
Transphobes. Go home, transphobes! What? Hey! Back! Peaceful protest, back! Everybody fine! Get away from me! Pedophilia and being transgender have nothing to do with each other.
We come in peace. We come in peace. This is about the children. Hey, stop. This is about the children.
So the highlights of this particular video are as follows. These people are talking to them as if there's some way to rationalize with them. You see the look on one woman's face as she stands there perplexed, wondering what's going on. You voted for that, sweetheart. You voted for it. Another girl walking with her brother, I guess it was her brother, I'm guessing, but walking with him saying, we come in peace. We come in peace. Really? You come in peace? That's your message to Antifa? What this tells you, I want to feel bad for these people, but I can't. I can't, because this kind of ignorance is unacceptable. Because they're walking away. They're going to walk away from that experience, and they're still going to think to themselves, Democrats are the good guys. And I don't normally, look, years ago, I didn't agree with Democrat policy, but I didn't look at their policy the way that I look at it today. I could have never dreamed in the 90s that it would turn into what it is today. Between the DAs, which we've been reporting on forever, who just catch and release all of these imbeciles so that they can go out and continue to harass people. And she's talking to these people like it's about the children. Do you honestly think they give a shit about the children? Do you think they even care about transgenders or Donald Trump or George Floyd or anything that they go out and destroy stuff over? No. If you still think that, you are consciously keeping yourself in the dark. Perhaps you've bought into the messaging so much, you're in so deep that you can't rationalize coming out of it. I'm going to give you a piece of the rant from episode 9. Just the piece where Andy No ties them in with what they're really about. And if this doesn't convince you, I just don't know what will. Or you still with your head in the sand so deep that you don't even believe they exist. Let's look.
They do take their name, mythos, and symbols from an older organization, the Antifascistische Aktion, or AFA. So you can probably tell from the name it's German. The original AFA was founded in 1932 as a violent paramilitary of the German Communist Party. They were involved in extremely violent political street brawls and systematically worked to undermine the social democratic government of the Weimar Republic. This was just shortly before World War II. Antifa won't admit it today, but their forebears actually paved the way for the rise of Hitler by creating a climate of extreme political polarization and instability. After World War II, the quote-unquote Antifa ideology of the communists was absorbed into the official state ideology of East Germany. In the name of so-called anti-fascism, the East German regime built the Stasi, which was the Ministry for State Security, where citizens were monitored and spied on through a vast apparatus of informants who infiltrated all aspects of life in civil society. The Berlin Wall, built to stop its own citizens from fleeing the tyranny of the East, was called the Anti-Fascist Defense Barrier officially by East Germany. A lot of people don't know that. Historically and today, quote-unquote anti-fascism or Antifa have nothing to do with actually opposing fascism. It is a cover for an explicitly far-left communist agenda. Most mainstream left-wing people are ignorant of this. This is why you have fools on CNN describing Antifa as comparable to American soldiers liberating Europe of fascism.
The first step is to understand what's going on. The hardest part is to break the thought process of people who have believed a certain way for a long period of time and have been socialized, and in some cases, depending on how young they are, educated to believe certain things. Everyone in this country has like-minded interests. Everyone. Do not let people make you believe that we are all so different. We are not. These animals are in the streets. Take away something that we've held dear for our entire existence. Countries like Hong Kong, countries like Cuba, countries like Venezuela, really any country that's socialism, which is essentially the economic system of communism, which is all run under the philosophy of Marxism. Everywhere it is touched, people have cried for freedom. Do not let it happen here. And please, for the love of God, do not believe that it can't happen here. Rant over.
And like that, he's gone.
Hey, George, in a second here, I want you to watch a video that I found. It's gone viral, at least to the degree that 2 million people have seen it so far. Wow. And you know what? Why don't we just roll the video real quick and let it speak for itself. It piles up after a while. You know, BLM, they call the American flag a symbol of hate. On Independence Day.
They're a communist organization.
No, I know. And then on Independence Day, the New York Times says our flag is a divisive symbol. On January 19th, Grammy winner Macy Gray says that our flag represents the same thing as a Confederate flag. Now, you know, I'd like Mrs. Gray to remember one thing, is that June the 19th has just become a federal holiday, and that was recognized by the people that represent that flag. You know, it just, and now this, right in suburbia. And who's putting that crap in this kid's mind? Is it his mom? She obviously doesn't care. But is it our school system? I mean, it's just, I can't, you know, I can't.
If I own that house that has that video camera, I'm totally pressing charges on this lady for vandalism. You know, I expect this kind of garbage from communist organizations, anarchist organizations. You know, BLM, I expect them to do this kind of dumb shit. You know, Antifa, I expect them to do this kind of dumb shit. You know, sunrise.org, same thing. But when you've got just like a woman teaching this to her children, this kid's going to grow up all messed. You can only imagine how much garbage is getting pumped into this kid's head. Like for him to just stop and do that instinctively, like, I mean, he's all in. This kid is, and you know, that's what I really feel bad for, is this kid. I ain't mad at the kid. He don't know any better. He's got a psycho for a mother and one who should be ticketed and prosecuted for vandalism because she's responsible for that child. And I hope this goes. I'm glad this went viral. That woman should be shamed everywhere. Absolutely. There's nothing. There is something illegal about the vandalism, but the fact of the matter is that's a misdemeanor. But what she did was far beyond, in my mind, a misdemeanor. I'm not saying she should be jailed or anything like that. It's still, you know, some element of freedom of expression. But what a piece of garbage that woman is. What a piece of garbage.
I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I knew you'd fill it in. I saw that. I saw that, and my jaw just dropped. That's a child. I mean, what are you doing to him? What are you doing?
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God, if I'm on the roof with a BB gun, I'm going full rounds on that lady.
Yeah. And can you imagine what we would have did to that kid when we were kids?
Oh, forget it. That kid would have no friends, would be but you know, now he's doing play dates with other psychopath parents.
Probably.
That's how they play today. So they all just hanging out because his buddies would be crapping on him all day. No, they're going to set play dates with more of the psycho family, with all the psycho friends that they have. Because these people hang out in their echo chambers, like they actually think there's some righteousness in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I know. I wonder how much time and effort they put into fighting for our freedoms.
Garbage. That woman is trash.
Yeah.
She's trash.
All right. That's it, George. I just want to work you up again.
Yeah, let's get to the next one.
All right, bye. Hey, George, you know, let's bring it down from the frustration level and end this one on a comedy story. I'm going to read you the headlines out of an article that I that I read. It says, out of touch Kamala Harris gets smashed for saying she opposes voter ID because rural Americans don't have access to photocopiers. And well, I mean, this has been a well-known issue for many years. And I believe there's, like places like Omaha, Nebraska, there's been a real shortage of people with photocopiers. Just
can't make this up.
No, you can't. You can't make it up, Georgie. I mean, it's like
President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Lord help us. Lord help us.
I mean, look, fire the writer there, Kamala. Unless you came up with that one on your own, which
no, that's an ad lib. Yeah, those guys are freaking falling over in their chairs listening to us say that crap.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of think tank would put something together like that? How can we justify, slamming, having somebody identify who they actually are so that it can place a legitimate vote? Lack of photocopiers in Omaha. Please. It's like, I mean, you just can't make it up. You just can't.
I mean, look, with this argument with the voter ID, honestly, all of it is funny. Like, it's so, like, they have no idea how ridiculous they sound when they come up with these reasons for people not being able to get a friggin' ID. Everybody's got an ID. It's just absolutely nuts. And listening to these stories, and the funny thing is, when you finally pigeonhole them and narrow them down, and I've begun to do this with it because it's fun, watching them come to this like realization of what they're actually saying, and because they're so used to parroting that, so they just come out and spew it out and if you do that in an echo chamber long enough, you start to really like buy in because no one's ever like smacking you and being like,
if there's no one around, talk about diversity. They're so into diversity. Well, where's your diversity of thought? You're surrounding yourself by all of these people in that little bubble. You all think it's right.
Well, what you do is when they start with the marginalized people, that like they don't even realize that they're regurgitating. They all regurgitate the same thing. Like to someone who debates these people all the time, like they don't even know that they're verbatim on point. With what they're saying, like they think that that they researched this and read it, and therefore they know it, and like they have no idea that like they're doing it verbatim. So they'll say marginalized people, and then I stop them. I'm like, okay, who are these marginalized people that are too incompetent or incapable of using the internet or using a photocopier or finding their DMV or being able to get to their DMV? Who are these marginalized people?
Who uses a photocopier?
These are the underserved in society. Yes. Who are these marginalized, underserved people? Like, because you got to get it out of them. And eventually they have to say it. Like, you just keep nailing them. Each time they come up with a new creative description to say minority or black person, you just keep drilling it down until they have to say it. And then that's it. They're done. They don't say it. They walk away. Yeah. If it's on Facebook, they'll just start, that's where the personal insults come in and you just throw the flag up in victory and you won. Or they just stop commenting altogether because they realize at that point that, yes, I am saying that black people are too incompetent to get driver's licenses. I am saying that minorities in general cannot use photocopiers.
She said something in the article about, because the Staples is a long way away. They don't just have them right around the block. I don't need Staples, and I got one on a corner. I could just take a picture. Jesus, Kamala, come on.
Oh my! What did Reagan say? It's not that liberals don't know anything. It's that they know so much that isn't true.
That's right. I don't know. What else do you think they don't know, George?
I know. Of course, what they don't know jack.
I'm going to show you an emotional video. At least it was for me. I call it Fragrant Harbor, A Message to America. Talk to you on the back end.
My name is Hong Kong. It means fragrant harbor. But in early days, I lost the scent of that fragrance. As winds of war blew the fragrance away, Jin, Han, Mongols all came. They tried to rule me. But then trade came, and she helped to raise me. I thought I had nothing, but she showed me I had in fact a great treasure, the greatest harbor in all of the world, attracting ships from far across the ocean. She adopted me as her own daughter, and our harbor became a crown of immense value. The ships brought many things, some great, some not so great. One of the best was more family, my new sister, money. We arranged a deal, 100-year lease with the barbarian British. Together, we grew very, very rich. We had more exports, more imports, more wealth, and soon more skyscrapers than any nation on earth. On the rock of Hong Kong, flower grew again. It was watered by Western values. The fragrance returned, and at last I recognized the scent. Freedom was powerful. It had sparked revolutions around the world, in places like America, where people like me fought for their right to exist, to own property, to pursue happiness. But freedom, I soon learned, was also fragile. While we had grown in wealth and freedom, communism had come to China. Chairman Mao slaughtered tens of millions of his own people in name of the greater good. When the day came when the British left and the communists took over, I learned who the true barbarians are. The communists trampled their promises, trampled our rights, trampled our freedom. When we were betrayed here at home by the communists and their lies, we protested. They broke our bones, but the Americans broke our hearts. Because while my people, fighting for their freedom, were waving the American flag in our streets, begging for freedom, Americans were waving the communist flag in their streets, begging for dictatorship. Hong Kong, fragrant harbor, will never stop fighting for the smell of freedom. What about you, America?
It's a shame to think about how so many fail to see what we have and what we stand to lose. The next time that someone denies that the United States is not a light that the world looks to, remember the term fragrant harbor and recognize they don't know jack.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
Any parting words, George?
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that you subscribe on MeWe. We now have presence on MeWe. Over 600 contacts. Jump on us there. Make sure you like the page. We also right here on Facebook, and then of course YouTube. Make sure you click that bell, get your notifications. The live streams also go to the website at patriotthinktank.com. So make sure you check it out. Every episode we've done is there on the website. So check it out with all the sources listed for each episode. So if you happen to catch another episode and you're interested and you're curious about something that we're saying, or you need us to back it up, if you're checking it out through the website, I can almost guarantee you that the link will be there for whatever it is that you're asking for. So other than that, Jack, I think we're good to go. Another one in the books. Keep in tune, folks. We'll be releasing some new material throughout the week.